Hello. Good morning. He's a handsome fella, isn't he? What you can do with all these programs nowadays. It's awesome. I looked at it and I was like, man, I wish I looked like him. So who was here for my last session? I think it was back in April. Oh, good. I can impress you now. A lot has changed since I did this. The jokes haven't. I still think I'm funny, right? But that's just me. So I guess I better say why I am here. I know why you're here. Quick poll though. How many of you have used the updates management feature in Azure today? Cool. Oh, hi there, James. Good. It's like a comedian. I know somebody to pick on now. So they're all coming at you. How many of you are using SCCM to patch anything in Azure today? Okay. Let's go. How are you finding it? Using a CMG and all that malarkey. All right. I got myself a new gadget. Most of you that know me, it's like my new clicker. Can do all kinds of weird stuff. So if it goes wrong, it's not my fault. All right? I like to call myself a black box learning guru because I think I got enough Microsoft people in here so I can nick a phrase, be a learn-it-all and not a know-it-all. I'm actually much younger than I look. I've been around for a while. I can't claim Rob's thing of SMS 2.0. I've actually been working with SCCM since SMS 2003, when he had ITMU and chased that little 5 meg file around. So I've also done a little bit of writing. I actually wrote with Steve as well. But what I'm an extreme guru in, and the reason why he should be talking to me today, is that I'm actually a gadget freak and a kitchen beast. Right? I like to cook things up. I make things up as I go along. And I've also messed with a lot of different technologies along this journey as well. So these are just a few of the books I've either led, written, lost a lot of weekends. Much better to have drunk beer because they're all redundant now. But you can see that there was a config manager bit in there way back as well. I'm actually working on an Azure governance book at the moment. And I'm taking donations in advance, just in case it doesn't sell. All right. This session hopefully should be fairly straightforward. Just going to start with why you should even be thinking about Azure Update Management. A little bit of theory because I can. Then the practical side. Maybe if you're still all right with me, we can have a chat afterwards, right? Yeah? You all good with the agenda? Lovely. Lovely picture, isn't it? Anybody know what that formula is? If you knew the answer to that, you could have won the American lottery. I worked it out just as they announced the winner. Does anybody know that? Yeah? Somebody just won 1.4 billion based on this formula. I'm just winding you up. Man, you're proper serious here. Yeah. I just came back from Prague, so I'm a little bit knackered. A few of them that I've seen around. No, it wasn't a stag do. It was a geek do. I was speaking over there. So for those that were in the audience over there, let me see. I got a few snipers in the room. Yeah, I'm watching you. He's come up and wound me up. That's why I was doing press-ups to calm myself down. You know what I mean? So I don't have to knock him out. You're right there. I'm not violent. I'm just not a lover. No, just kidding. I told you the jokes were getting worse. So why would you even think about updates management using the native stuff? It's because you're already in Azure, and there's a lot of free stuff in there. It does it for you natively. There are no agents to worry about. We always talk about using the right tools for the right job. And my question to you is, would you actually go into a proper pub and ask to buy milk? For a cocktail, though, yeah, I can understand. But, baby screaming, yeah, right? Would you rather go into Tesco's or would you walk into a pub and annoy the missus? It's like, I thought you were going out for 5 minutes. That's right. Lad said, just have a quick one, right? So when it comes to patching in Azure, it really doesn't make sense to try and use Config Manager to do it today. I look after a very large Config Manager infrastructure. I just don't use my organization's name for reasons that I wouldn't disclose. But if you come and ask me nicely, I'll let you know. You all got LinkedIn anyway. You'll find out. You can Google me. I just can't put it on a slide. But we've been we're migrating into the cloud environments, and the biggest challenge is they want us to use the same tools that we use today to manage stuff in there. And when you go through all the bureaucratic stuff, the firewall team, network team, they try and put everything into Azure like they had it on-prem. It just doesn't make sense. Anybody seen this picture before? Okay, time to test my little gadget. It works. Oh, yeah, it does. Ooh. It allows you to actually zoom in live and do all kinds of stuff. So I don't have Jason's problem. One of them actually gives me a little spotlight. Sweet. So these are all the pillars that Microsoft is concentrating on at the moment. I'm just going to stand here. Sometimes I don't know what the slides look like, so I made it up a couple of minutes ago. Okay, cool. Yeah. So the top bit, govern, is more to do with something like group policy. What they did was, when Azure first came out, it's like a nightclub without a door policy. Everybody got in, and suddenly the bouncers had a problem. They had jeans, they were all tooled up. So now policy is about saying, if your name ain't on the door, you ain't coming in. You got to be this high to ride in this place. I'm not going to touch on all the other pillars, but the main bit I'm going to focus on is the configuration management side and updates management, and anything else I can throw in there to make it interesting. Earlier on, somebody said Linux had been deprecated in terms of managing it with Config Manager. Does anybody know where it went? Anybody actually patching Linux in your config environments or have done before? Okay, good. You're all as lucky as me. Somebody else does that. But if you do need to, even though it's been removed from Config Manager, Azure natively allows you to do that. And how many of you are using SCOM in your environments today? You are? Okay. So if I say MMA, what does it mean to you? Who asked you? Get in there trying to be a teacher's pet. He didn't bring me an apple, so you can't answer those questions. All right. Yeah, it's called the Microsoft Monitoring Agent. Thanks, James. But that's where it's all sort of like tied into at the moment. Anybody using log analytics or in old money OMS? A little bit, okay. It has to be your friend because everything is tied into it. What about the Azure Automation Account? Yeah, James, man. Yeah. I know I've seen you at the back there. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just picking on James. All right. Yeah, okay. So all of these things used to be very hard to put together. And did anybody use Orchestrator here? Okay, good. So you remember the runbook server? I imagine your SCOM agent is now a runbook server, every one of them. That's what a hybrid worker is in a nutshell. I like to simplify things. If your friends, you shouldn't come here. I've got big friends. I can't get my words out. That's all right. Does my simplification work, by the way? Yeah, okay. That's the end of the session. Thank you very much for coming. No. Okay. So in terms of the architecture itself, anybody that knows Linux, this is what it is. And seeing that none of you are using Linux, I'll give you the slide deck and you can give it to somebody that's using it. But it's all in the documentation. Seeing the Microsoft lady at the back smiling, she's either going to give me a good review, a very bad review. Do you work with DJAM? Yeah. He's got my back, so there ain't nothing he can do to touch me. On the Windows side, it's also very similar. The monitoring agent talks to the automation account, and when you set up the jobs, it's all done through the hybrid worker, and there's all kinds of magic in the background. It doesn't do anything like the SAP or anything at all, because SCCM pimps the Windows update agent anyway. This does a similar thing. It just kicks off the Windows update agent for your scanning and all the other components. Any questions so far? No? Good. I'll move on. So what do you need to really get going? You need an automation account, a log analytics workspace, and in Azure, you can enable it natively either on the VM itself or within the updates management workspace, and I'll show you that. For non-Azure, you just need to make sure you've got the SCOM agents on there, and you put your workspace ID in and the relevant key, and that's all you need to do. It's the equivalent of okay, it's all right. I was messing with this thing. It reckons I've got 5 minutes left because I told they only had 15 minutes. Trying to play catch-up's not going to work. Now, when you have the SCOM agent talking to log analytics, each one of those agents are basically sending the information directly to Azure or receiving it. If you don't want to do that, OMS Now or Log Analytics, even though they haven't updated the icons and the agent itself, it now has what's known as OMS Gateway. So you install this OMS Gateway and it becomes the proxy for all the other agents. So you don't need to have them all talking directly to the workspace. And back in April, when I did this session, they hadn't brought in the pre and post steps, but effectively, this is what happens. When you scan, it goes into OMS, or you know the compliance state. You as the admin, you either review it, set up your maintenance jobs, in terms of when you want it patched, and you pretty much let it do its own thing. But now you can run pre and post scripts. Before, it wasn't a documentation. I think when I was here in April, I showed this. It wasn't actually there. It was just a placeholder, but now they have put it all in. I've been on that customer cohort for about 2 years now, and it's like being on the tap. You get to experience a lot of the pain, but when it works, you get to come out here and have like about 80 people stare at you and look at you and go, hey, I wish he's going to do something interesting. Yeah. I'm not. Okay, so what I like to do is a little bit of DBS, AKA demo by screenshot, because most of this stuff is in Azure. So I've captured a load of screenshots with the steps because it's going to take you about 30 minutes to set all of the pieces up. I mentioned about the automation account. When you normally set it up, if you allow it, it will create the automation account for you and the workspace as well. The only thing is, it's like doing an installation and just selecting typical rather than advanced. The account name will be a funny name, and so will the log space name. So what I typically tend to do is actually you go into automation accounts in Azure, you provide a name, specify your subscription, and the location. And the rest of it is pretty much click the button and it's done. Like I said, this will be in a slide deck, so it should be easy for you too. Once it's done, it's the first part done. Same thing as the workspace. You go into Log Analytics in Azure, and then ask to create a workspace name in. I'm a naming convention junkie, and I like to sort of like capitalize or initial capitalize everything. My first subscription, I ended up deleting everything out of it because I was just like randomly creating stuff. And when I tried to do anything interesting, found out that it was really weird. So now I'm just making sure that I label everything accordingly. Once you've got the workspace and the automation account created, you go into the automation account, and in this session, I talked about also discussing a little bit about change tracking and inventory. So similar to hardware inventory and the change tracking as well, what's changed recently. Help us to answer the age-old question, who messed with this machine before it went Pete-tong. But anyway, you go into the automation account, and when you select either inventory change tracking or update management, you go in and say, yeah, I want to enable it. And that's why I've highlighted it. If you haven't got your workspace or the automation account created, at that point, it would try and create it for you automatically. Because I'm all fancy, I can now select the one that I created. And that's all you need to do. You just wait for things to happen. And this is your console for updates management, for the use of a better word. And I'm going to go into it properly so you can see what it looks like. Let me see what else have I got. This is enabling it on the machine itself. So how many of you are using Azure today in terms of deploying virtual machines? Good gentlemen. Okay. So if you go into the properties of the virtual machine itself, there'll be an update management piece. If you go in there, you can just go and click and see enable. And you can enable it for all VMs within the subscription. So there's like about 3 places where you can enable this, say down the individual one. Once you're done, you wait like about 10, 15 minutes. I would advise that don't expect things to happen immediately because first of all, it needs to talk to the servers and it takes a bit of time before the first assessment. So probably between 6 hours and 12 hours before you start seeing everything. That's why I had to go through most of this. Let's see what else have I got. Come on. All right, here you go. Messing with new technology. All right, so on the agent side, if you have like say a workgroup machine or something that is using the internet, you can download the MMA agent. So it's from your log analytics workspace. And it's I agree, and then next. And this is the critical bit. So you just come in here and you type in your workspace ID and the workspace key. And that's all you need to do to set it up. Okay. Any questions so far? Sure. Yeah. When you say pilot groups, what do you mean?
Basically test deploy the updates before you go global.
So, put it in different phases.
Correct.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. You saw me setting it up earlier, right? I like that question. Yeah, you can do that. I'll show you in the demo. So you mean you want to I'll patch my lab stuff first, then the next phase and the next phase. Cool. It's called tagging. You can use tags, and now they've got this thing called dynamic groups. So I'll show you what I've done within mine. But I like that. That's a good question. Thank you.
If you had a requirement to patch, say 20 servers in a DMZ, and that was your only requirement,
Yeah.
would you go down the cloud management gateway road? You've already got SCCM internally. Or would you go down the MMA or log analytics, patching with Azure road?
It depends. And I'm not borrowing from Microsoft. So let me ask, would those machines in the DMZ have access to the internet?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're using the SCCM route, you have certain challenges. It depends on your firewall team. They may restrict how many holes you can punch through the firewall to get to that. If it's easy for them to allow you to do that, then fine. I would go with the Azure route for simplicity, but for compliance, you may not be able to do that. So both will work by your degree of complexity, where with the Azure route, all you need is just an internet connection. With your on-prem stuff, you still have all the heavy work of making sure you can do name resolution within that DMZ. So DNS resolution or whatever it is. All the firewall pieces, agent help, connecting. Believe me, I've been there and we're still trying to deal with that. As soon as they allow me to do it this way, I will do it this way.
Can you, if we did go down the log analytics route, can you select which patches get pushed to those machines in the DMZ? So from a compliance point of view, you could just report on patches delivered, patches installed.
Yeah, and a lot of these questions will be better answered by showing you it live now, because I'm a little bit excited about it, and Peter is giving me the sign of, come on, get on with it. What are you doing, lad? You know, we're already late. It's like, okay, all right, I hear you there. But sorry, I'll cover all those questions in a second. Yeah, cool. I really don't like this screen, Peter. It's just like weird. It's like pieces divided up. But I found a new trick to zoom it. See? You just pinch the screen. People are installing Zoom and stuff like that, making it all complex. All right, so I'm going to go all touch screen here. So what I talked about earlier, this is your automation account, and everything is built around it. Apologies if I don't look at you, because I'm a man, so I don't multitask. I just single task really fast. Okay, so I'll look up every now and then to see if you're all still paying attention. So earlier on, there you go, show Adaptiva some love, you see. I pimped my Azure stuff up. You can do some weird stuff with Azure, like, you know, whenever you go to somebody else's event, you just change the screen, and it's just like, hey, you didn't sponsor this one, so I'll go back to the other one, all right? So these are the automation accounts, and, you know, to show that there are no tricks up my sleeve, that was the one I was demoing when I created it. So when you come through here, the main thing to be aware of is this update management piece here. Yeah, the render, shouldn't I switch? There you go. So these machines that you can actually see on the screen, these are running off my Intel NUC, and I didn't carry it with me, so you can see that there are no tricks. So this is connected to my home bed. So these are running off a machine at home, and they've got the MMA agent installed, and they're reporting to this workspace, and it shows you what patches are missing, etc. Let me switch to the one I want to use for the demo, which is this account. And earlier on, somebody asked about whether I can order these machines in terms of how I patch it. So if I actually go to the VMs, what I'm doing is I'm taking advantage of something known as tagging, okay? And I'll show you how I use that in a second. So for this particular VM, I've tagged it as integration, it's phase 2, and I can allow a reboot. So that's my pre-work. If you use an Azure policy, you can actually get the Azure policy to set all of that up on your resource group. Now, these are all the VMs I'm using. I'm taking advantage of my Azure subscription. Unlike you guys, I don't need to use pay-as-you-go. I'm still an MVP, and it's not bragging rights. It's just that it's not often that they give you $1,000 a month to spend. So I've got a sponsor subscription, only if I use it for demos. That's why I've spun up all of these machines. All right. So let me go and show you what I've done. And I got a Barry White thing going on. So the other way to enable the updates management on the VM, and I built these ones earlier on today, is when you come in here and you select manage machines, these are the 3 that currently I haven't enabled for updates management. So all I need to do is come and click this button, and it goes off in the background, and it does what it needs to do. To schedule a deployment, first and foremost, I'll show you the ones that I've got in place. So I've got a few scheduled, and some of them are supposed to be happening during this session. Let me see. There you go. Yeah, they are in progress. So I set these 2 up. They're in progress at the moment, just to show It'll base it, but to actually set it up, and hopefully I'll be able to answer both gentlemen's question. Is it big enough over there? Okay. So what you need to do is give it a name. And this is where you can select whether it's Linux or Windows. I do have Linux machines in here because I've got a friend that knows how to build them, so he built mine for me. But unlike previously, so this is the previous way of like selecting your machines, and you could use the OMS save searches, which is creating a search that uses a property that it's, to use a simple word, inventoried. Or you can import from SCCM if you've enabled the connection to SCCM. You can bring your collections in here. Or you can go in here and select your machines. And sometimes there's a little bit of a delay based on your internet connection. And I'm trying to fill in for this thing to come up, but it should show me all the machines that I have in here. There you go. I've learned not to panic. Rob said, people are first-time presenters. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? You give me a bad review. You don't pay my bills. So it's not too bad. I can get over that. I'll cry for a week. Okay? It's not too bad. But this is the really cool thing that they brought in, and it's still in preview. Okay? It's called dynamic groups. And what you do here is the mandatory bits are your subscription and resource groups. Sorry, I kind of like flew into Azure like everybody knew about it. Subscriptions like your domain. So your Azure tenant is the domain forest. Subscription is like the domain, and the resource groups are your OU, right? So the resource groups are what you group things into, like the machines itself. I'll select all of these ones, right? And then what I have done, okay, my other deployment's finished. Because I've created these tags for my deployments, it's now available for me to use to create the group, right? So I'll select production, and I've put my production service in phase 3, and I've said, yeah, I'll allow reboots. And if I then do preview, unlike my other demos, it may or may not work. Well, it's like if I click it enough times, it might just work. Okay, but I'll show you one I created earlier, just to prove that this thing works. I was taking screenshots last night, so I knew it was going to mess with me. See, normally when you click the preview button, it's supposed to evaluate that condition and pop it over there. But this is still a preview feature, but it does work because all it's doing is just showing me the preview of it right here, right now. But it's not what would happen when I actually go and do the deployment. Because when you set up the deployment, it would evaluate at that time. It's like a query-based collection in effect. See? What I then need to do is similar to SCCM, but much more simpler. You can come through and decide which classification categories you actually want to use. Now I'll just remove the service packs because I can. What they've also brought in, hang on a sec. I missed a bit out here. Okay. The good thing with Azure is if you start getting silly, it warns you about it. So I'd made a selection, but I didn't click on OK, and it didn't like that. This is new from when I was here in April. I don't quite get the include. It says you can type the KB number to include it. Exclude I do get, and I've used that, and it's pretty neat. So if you want to exclude just one update from the deployment, you type in the KB number, and when it does the deployment, it will exclude it. How many of you have tried to exclude an update from SCCM? Yeah. It's nice and easy, isn't it? Go into the software update group, remove that, redeploy the software update group to another collection. So quick and nice and easy. But all you need to do is just type the KB in here. And when you do, you can type in multiple KBs, and that's it. And I'll show you the effect of that. Scheduling. So typically, you got to allow about, I think the minimum is 5 minutes. But you can run once, you can run recurring, and if you do recurring, you can do it by day, by week, by month, and you can select weekdays. You can really go to town with it. But I'm going to keep it simple and do the run once, and just leave the default in here because you're all going to go away and play with this anyway. Maintenance windows. It's kind of like the start time and the duration. So similar to SCCM, your deployment start time. I'll just make this 180. Okay. And what's really cool that they've brought in, now you can control reboots. So, reboot if required, never reboot, always reboot. And because with this deployment, I've said I don't want it to reboot, I can come through here and select. The other cool thing you can do with this is you can skip all the other selections, or at least select the machine and then select reboot. So it's the equivalent of triggering the reboots from here as well without patching anything. And that's it. That creates the deployment. The ones that are actually running, so I set this one up earlier. You got some nice GUI to track your progress. So you get to see which ones it's patching. So those same machines are selected, I'm really driving them hard. They were all missing at least one update, and I set this one up to coincide. So you can see the progress of it. When you click on the machine itself, it's got some pretty decent verbose login, and this one hasn't got anything in this, so it's not a great example. Let's go back to you. When I go on nervous, I count to 10 in my head. So if I go quiet, don't be worried about it, okay? But as it's going on, you get to see every state. So if there were any excluded updates in there, it will show you. It also shows you the updates it's installing. Is it big enough? So you can pretty much track it live. We'll just go back to... But the only problem with making things big is that you've got to remember to make them small again. How am I doing for time, Rob?
You still have some time left.
Okay. Not much.
30 seconds.
All right, thanks. I got 21 seconds to comply. Okay, cool. All right. So that's how you track the updates that are going on. If I look at older deployment as well, where, let's go back. I think that's one of them that I've got in here with an exclusion. So it's my weekly lab one. Actually, I'm going to stop for a second. There were two questions earlier on. Did it cover?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think from a simplicity point of view, bearing in mind I've got to rely on a third party to set up a CLG and I'm not completely confident in their ability to do it. The report, I think I'd need to see a bit more around the reporting if I was to go down this route.
Yeah, sure. Yes, it's a good one, because this is all based on log analytics. So you saw the default side of things, which is kind of like the missing updates. So when you come into missing updates, you can see it by the whole environment. And this is all in log analytics, so you can just pull it all out of there. Let's see, there we go. Yeah.
Compliance managers like nice shiny pie charts.
Which one?
So the compliance managers and security managers like nice shiny pie charts.
Oh, yeah, they do. Well, in log analytics at the moment, you can do a bit of that. I'm just not skilled enough to give you a decent demo, but I can make a decent go at it, right? So they've introduced the ability for you to actually build your own little pie chart in there, so to speak. So it leads me into like the inventory side, right? So in the main log analytics workspace, right, when you enable inventory, this is all you need to do. It shows you things like what software is installed on there, right? I've been using it to manage my Surface for like the last God knows how long. Microsoft talk about this for service, but there's nothing stopping you from putting the MMA agent on a workstation. Your licensing may be impacted depending on how you've been licensed, but it's really great for finding about things like drivers, etc. Right? You can also take a look at your services, and what I like about it is, things like are my services running, live, etc. You did ask about reporting. Yeah, I like to just mess with you, right? If you know how to use the kind of like the new query stuff, and you got the Power BI integration, right? All makes sense, but you can pull this information into Power BI as well. And I picked one of the wrong ones. So if you click on analytics, there's an advanced one that comes up. There you go. Can you come and see me afterwards? Because this is going to drag. But basically, within here, with the advanced view, once it pops up, I can just click on chart over here, and you can slice and dice it over there. So you can get some basic visualization in there. Or all of this information that you've got in there, you can pull into Power BI and create your reports out of it. There's actually a link that I think I had on here. If you go to the updates management link itself, they actually provide you with a load of queries that you can just dump in here, like, missing updates lists, etc. Right? So you can do CPM, copy, paste, modify, and take all the credit, right? I do that. There ain't no shame in that. It's like that's why we buy ready-made meals, right? 2 minutes in the microwave and it's done. Okay. Cool. So let me go back. After this guy's distracted me, asking me awkward questions. I practiced this for like 10 minutes earlier on. Well, Rob told me I only had like about 30 minutes. 30 seconds, there you go. Right. What I'll say is, as you can see, it's very easy to get this set up. This is the change tracking piece. It allows you to see what's changed, and especially when you install updates as well, some of these things will light up, so you'll be able to see what modified it, who's modified it. And this is all with just a click of the button, just say enable, and I don't do anything else. It does some, there's some management pack deployments, the background for OMS to do most of these, but it's near zero configuration. And when you go into the workspace, where I talked about this last bit that I'm gonna talk about, let's log analytics go in here. To get the agent and all of the, come on, hidden my, there you go, hidden my services. I trimmed everything down and I can't find anything because I was trying to clean my console for it. No. Does it come up? There you go. So this is the one I created in here. You still have the native OMS, but it's being deprecated, so don't use that one because you wouldn't see most of these things in here. Now, it's not very nice the way they've hidden it, okay? So if you want to get the agent, you need to come down to this bit that says connected sources. And over here, this is where you'll find the downloads and the machines that are actually under management. And also, if you look down here, here's the link for the OMS gateway that you can use as your proxy. So in your DMZ scenario, you can install it all on there and have just one machine that has the internet access and then proxy through the OMS gateway or have a dedicated machine for that. Okay. Let me see. But that's it. It's meant to be an intro, sort of like a taster. I went away and practiced and did all of that. So here's your opportunity to do the same. I think I should get back to the slide deck and just finish that off because you guys are all looking really, really interested and ready to go and do this, right? Again, I've boiled this down. This isn't written very well in the documentation. In fact, it's written too well. It's so much information about it, but this is all you need to know. It scans twice a day, and also when you kick off the job. If you are doing Linux, then it's every 3 hours. And when you restart the MMA agent. The other big question is, how much is it actually going to cost? So if you have an Azure subscription, it's actually all built in. It's actually free for those components. So there's nothing stopping you from using it. Naturally, with the pre and post scripts side, it uses the automation account and Azure runbooks. Currently only supports PowerShell runbooks, but that's where the automation runtime costs will come in. But it depends on how sophisticated your script is and the pricing. This is what the general information is, but naturally, if you're a large organization and you negotiate with Microsoft, you may have different pricing available to your organization. So this was me before I go into this whole update management stuff for my lab. And this is me now. So I guess, anybody want to have a chat? Questions? Is this useful? Can I get an encore? You know, little 1, 2, microphone 1. That means clap, you know, just. Thank you very much. And I've got a little vein here.